Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Can We Fix It? So today we are looking at this Nintendo DS. It's a lovely pink one that I bought off eBay. It's fully working apart from the hinge. The hinge is the only thing that doesn't seem to be working. It's just floppy. So today we're going to have a little go at trying to fix it. I've never done one of these refurbs before, so I'm a little bit dubious about doing it, but I've watched a tutorial online kind of giving the ins and outs of how to do it, so let's give it a go. Okay, so as I've kind of alluded to, this is definitely not a tutorial video of me showing you how to do this. It's probably the most fiddly job I've ever actually had to do. I found this extremely frustrating. So, I mean, I got most of the screws off straight off the bat. That wasn't an issue. It's when you get to this sort of point where you're messing around with the cables inside of the device. This little wire right by here, I mean, that's the antenna cable, and literally you have to be so careful because they are so fragile and you can break them so easily. As you can see by here now, I'm pulling the actual cable out and it's actually stuck behind the cartridge slot. So to actually remove it, you have to slide the cable underneath the cartridge slot, and if you pull too hard you could seriously damage the board. I had to remove the BIOS chip, which is what you see I just pulled off the board by there. You have to actually do that, but you have to be super careful. And unfortunately, I came into a bit of a hiccup right by here. This little part actually just ruined the entire process basically, because I'd actually broken off. I hadn't realized at this point, but I'd actually broken off the little tab for the digitizer, which rendered basically the bottom half of the console, the touchscreen for that, unusable. I mean, I hadn't realized at this point that I damaged the console, and unfortunately that had to be sorted out, which you'll see in a little bit. But I went through this process just to continue on and just remove everything. So at this point I'd actually realized I'd left one of the screws in, which is why it wouldn't come out, and there we go, that did it. So yeah, I just kind of continued going with it and just tried removing some of the little clips. You have to be super careful with these as well, because as I just stated, it's just, I knocked the one little tab off the digitizer and that broke the entire console. So whenever you're using any sort of tool or anything like that, you have to be very delicate. You can't go in heavy-handed. I seem to have a bit of an issue with little tabs anyway, but you know, it is what it is. So as you can see here, I'm just at this point I'd actually put the new screen onto the board. Most of it's pretty straightforward. The hardest bit was the antenna cables. So yeah, you just have to be really careful when removing all this sort of stuff. It's a very fiddly process. You have to be careful because there's lots of overlapping cables and wires, and if you're not careful you can also damage the ribbon cables. So again, you have to just take your time. I referred back to this tutorial that I watched over and over just to make sure I was doing the right thing. I'd say this definitely was not an easy mod to do, even though it's just a shell replacement. So here you can see I'm trying to line everything back up and put it all back in place. Then came the fun bit of trying to rewire and sort of reverse process of what I'd already done. So again, it's not straightforward. There's a little metal tab on the end of it, and that kept getting stuck. And I kept feeding it through, just being patient with it. That's the one thing I could recommend with this entire thing, is you need to just have a lot of patience. No matter what you do, don't go too heavy-handed with it. And if you find yourself getting frustrated, just take your time. As you can see, I'm still going for it. I'm still trying to pull it through. And then eventually it did come through. So I started reattaching things to the board. So again, by here I'm just reattaching the screws, just trying to get it all back into place where it was. Again, there's a lot of really fiddly bits on this. The L&R triggers kept popping off because it's the back of the case that actually holds it securely in place. But I got there in the end. By this point I needed some help, so I called in Graham.
So, I received this DS off of Jaymz. Just a couple of problems with it, so we're going to see if we can fix it. So, this is the DS that he sent me. Everything on it's working fine. It's overall in good condition. He did try and reshell it himself, and he ran into a couple of issues. As you can see here, the top part was just kind of, there's a bit of tension, so it was kind of causing the top of it to bend. Just kind of testing everything here just to make sure it all works, and everything was working fine. So I'm just going to remove the screws and take off the back plate. There are about 5 or 6 screws, I think, to take off the back plate. And you also need to watch because there is a brightness and contrast screw at the back as well that looks like a screw but it's not a screw, so then you try and screw it or you could mess up your touchscreen, but it's fixable, but it's just a pain in the ass. So zip 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 zip, spudger, great tool ever. The worst part about opening it there is the goddamn L&R buttons because they can fire off sometimes, but look, it's half the fun. So there's just a few kind of things you just need pried loose. There's a screw hidden in the board as well. Once that's removed, you'll be good to go. And there's also the BIOS chip there. This isn't by any means a how-to fix video on my part. I just kind of know how they work because I've reshelled a couple before and I've made a few other wee bits and pieces for them, so I've got a rough idea. So I was kind of hoping I could get this fixed for Jaymz. See, this was the problem here, this P6 ribbon, this is where the capacitor plugs into the touchscreen, basically plugs into. So that needed to be either replaced or the board replaced entirely. But hey, there's Kian. He was helping. That's my 6-year-old. He is great. He was very curious as to what was going on. So anyway, this is me fixing the top panel now. Just having a quick look at the bone just to see if I could fix it. And it was just a case of the way it was kind of slid on. It was fine. Anyway, I opted to just kind of replace the board entirely because I knew everything worked here, as well as this P whatever ribbon. The biggest pain in the ass, even though I made it look fairly easy here, are these goddamn wires. This is the microphone and the Wi-Fi cable. They basically go up to the top. So once the board was changed over, I screwed everything back into place here. I was going to quickly test the cartridge and my heart stopped here because I couldn't get the touchscreen to work. But it turned out it was just my big fat fingers, so everything was fine. But here it is now, working as good as new, and it's all reshelled and looking good. So Jaymz, treat it well, man.
I certainly will do, Graham. Okay, so this is my final finished product. I am extremely happy that Graham managed to help me out and get this fixed. So he basically had the replacement parts that worked to make the digitizer come back to life basically, and I am super happy. So as you can see, all working. Very happy, extremely happy. And yeah, man, I'm now able to play original DS games. The other thing that he actually sent me though was what we like to call a Game Boy macro. So this is basically what you do if you break your digitizer. You turn the bottom half of the screen into a Game Boy. I am so happy with this as well. It means I can play my Game Boy Advance games on the go with a better screen. It's not ideal. I would never recommend destroying a DS, you know, in itself to make a Game Boy macro. But, you know, when life gives you when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. That's what I'm trying to say. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I gotta be fair, I don't think I'll be making any more purchases or messing about with DS's again. This was stressful. I had to actually send it over to Graham in Ireland. He had to then fix it and send it back. It's been a bit, but I am super happy with the result. Like I said, it's a very nice case. The shell, fantastic, and it does exactly what I want it to now. So yeah, who's to say what I'm gonna do next though? Stay tuned, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, comment, let me know if you like these sorts of videos, and we will definitely be back again. So thanks for watching.